Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. It is Judd, it is AJ, both at the X following the Wild's 3-2 victory over the Chicago Blackhawks. A lot to get here to Age as the Wild wins again. Now what are they? They are now 15-4-4, 34 points, right behind the Jets. First of all, let's talk about this game in particular and the end of this game. So what happens there with the empty net for the Blackhawks? Marcus Foligno, so Yakov Trenin clears the puck for what would have been an icing, except Foligno clearly wins. Not only does he win the skate race down the ice, but he puts home an empty net goal that would have given the Wild a 2-goal cushion, and the game is done. And instead, it's mistakenly called an icing. They can't fix that, but they acknowledge the mistake by having the face-off at center ice. I think this post-Thanksgiving Day crowd would have gone absolutely out of their mind crazy, along with John Hines and Foligno, if the Blackhawks had indeed come back and then subsequently scored an empty net goal. That strikes me as a mistake that probably should be able to be corrected. Wouldn't you say?
It's like we live in 2024. 2025 is right around the corner. There's no reason where we can't go into a room. I'm sitting pretty close. You and I are both very close to the room that is sanctioned by Commissioner Gary Bettman, that has camera angles, that has different video reviews, that has a direct phone line to Toronto to review these types of plays. There's no reason that we have to just go based off of, oh, hey, it was an honest mistake. You know, we better hope that nothing happens. That 33 and some change seconds, everybody that was wearing stripes on the ice is praying to whatever God they believe in, if any, that there is not a Chicago goal to tie that game up. That is a horrendous miscall that, I mean, I'm sure there are people around the country that are still just like, I don't understand how that is not corrected. And then to immediately have them say, hey, you know what? We acknowledge that we messed up. We're going to have the face off at center ice. Hopefully that's okay with you. It's crazy. It's crazy that was allowed.
Last thought on it, though. It strikes me as if, so they acknowledged it without a replay. They just said, hey, we all saw that the dude made the wrong call. It seems to me that should be you can simply overturn the wrong call without replay assist. Like, it's one thing if it's offside, right? And it's close. And then you got to go look at it and blah, blah, blah. But this was literally the referee saying, oh, yeah, he goofed up. Face off. Center ice. Okay, if you can overrule, it's like when an umpire makes the wrong call, and they don't go to review. It's just the guy at second base or third base comes across to the first base ump and says, hey, you know what, dude was out. And they're like, oh, okay, thank you. And then dude is out. And so I am just very confused. It just seems to me, among the list of things sometimes that I'm like, okay, in a playoff game, what happens? Because, I mean, it's a terrible mistake, but it's an honest mistake. That strikes me as a very correctable one next week. Hey, you know what? We can say it's a goal. We could say the linesman made an honest mistake and go on from there. So absolutely nuts there. All right, so the Wild now wins back-to-back games. They played on Wednesday night in Buffalo. They win 1-0 there. Philip Gustafsson, absolutely outstanding. And then they come back today, 3-2 win. They get down 2-rip. Jared Spurgeon scores a couple of goals in this one. So what I like about these two games, though, is, again, this is the new Wild, AJ.
Yeah.
Where it's not that the wins, like Gustafsson stood on his head in Buffalo, but, I mean, that was a pretty workmanlike win, right?
Yeah, like he earned that, yeah.
He earned that. And today I feel like the Wild, which they've done this for years, came out in the first period pretty much tryptophan central. Like they looked like they had been enjoying their Thanksgiving. But ordinarily what you see from this franchise organization is that continues for 3 periods then. And they lose a game like this, 3-2. This was just another very workmanlike Spurgeon's second. Well, actually both of Spurgeon's goals, very opportunistic after a Marco Rossi goal that I do want to talk about because of what Kirill Kaprizov did. But anyway, Spurgeon's goals, in one he throws it in front of the net. I think it was Blackhawks defenseman Connor Murphy knocks the puck in. Yeah. In the second one, it was he basically crosses the Chicago blue line, lets go of a shot that starts to knuckle the Blackhawks goaltender Peter Mrazek, gets his glove on the puck, but he deflects it from there and it goes in, to which you could say, oh, those are both dumb luck. But doesn't it feel like this team is making its luck? Like, to me, they re-engaged. They came out in the second. It looked like their compete went up. So, yes, both Spurgeon goals were lucky, but I also feel like the tone of this team is to play the style of game where you get to take advantage of luck because you're also backing it up with work.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the underlying metrics of expected goals generated in the first period and the third period, it wasn't that great, but they came alive. And you could tell that first shift of the game, that top line went out there, they set the tempo, at least you thought they did. They had some offensive zone possession, they generate some chances, and then it kind of went away for a majority of the period. They maybe had a little flourish at the end. You could tell that tryptophan, like you were talking about, like in most cases in past years, it's not just they're on the Thanksgiving hangover. It's like they had an open-faced turkey sandwich right before the game. Here, it wore off after the first, and in the second period, they were smoother skating up the ice together. The breakouts were that much cleaner. The passing was quick and efficient. It seemed like they were finding tape-to-tape passes a little bit better. And, I mean, hockey is a game of luck at some points. Like, you can generate as much as you want. I mean, look at Connor Hellebuck the other night. He's very skilled as a goalie, but you have to admit that he probably had a decent amount of luck just with the volume of shots that he had against him. But when it comes to tonight, the Wild, I mean, they took advantage when they needed to. They had the Blackhawks go up early. They have a really pretty passing play that I know we'll talk about here, but they committed to their role. They committed to their game plan, and that's where the Connor Murphy, like the one that hit off both of his skates and that he kind of like tried to save but ended up knocking in. That one, they take advantage there. All of a sudden, a tie game, and the breakout leads to the Jared Spurgeon goal where, Peter Mrazek, and you and I were talking during the game, he's been playing very well lately, but he's still, frankly, this is going to sound bad, he's still Peter Mrazek. He's still the goalie of the Chicago Blackhawks, the 2024 Blackhawks, not a cup contender by any means. They're still very much work in progress as they accumulate young prospects. Connor Bedard is still really coming into his own in this league. They're not that good of a team. They're going to have a high draft pick again in the offseason. Just shoot the puck, and that's what they did. Jared Spurgeon puts the puck on net. He gets a little fortunate. It trickles through. It finds a seam, and they go ahead, and that is the game-winning goal. It wasn't pretty by any means, but they get the job done in a professional manner that we have talked about all season long. First
2 goals, too. It's big because Brodin is now out again. I'm concerned that this might turn into a thing here, too, because I'm guessing it's what Brodin struggled with previously before. So Spurgeon, who was also back on the top power play at times, definitely looked good. They need that. Like, we've talked about the fact that Jared Spurgeon is necessary here. Like, he missed, again, some games early on, obviously with the surgeries on his hip and back, which were concerning, that brought a premature end to his 2023-24. So Jared Spurgeon is necessary to actually generate things, which he did today. First 2 goals of the season. I want to talk about the Wild's first goal, though, because we both saw this from the press box. Great view. And my God, this is just Kirill Kaprizov. Now, we have probably thrown as much praise as you possibly can, but I just want to talk about the play here that sets up a goal that comes, again, with his team down second period by 2 goals. Kaprizov, here's what I love about it. It starts in his own zone. Picks off a pass. I think it was a Taylor Hall pass. Taylor Hall makes a pass. Kaprizov picks the puck off. Then he takes off. And it's not I'm going to go score a goal myself. I'm going to Dennis Savard these guys, and I'm going to deke them all out. Kirill gets into he crosses the Chicago blue line and comes to a sudden halt. So guys are obviously drawn towards Kirill Kaprizov. They need to be. He then makes another one of these blind but instinctual, or he just sees, he has eyes in the back of his head, to use a cliche. Finds Marcus Johansson from what would be really the right point in the Blackhawks zone on the left wing side, I think, in the circle. Now, Johansson is showing one thing when he's playing well. That is, the dude can pass too. So he then gets a cutting Rossi, who is on the doorstep for what was, I think, for a professional hockey player, an easy tip in. But Kirill Kaprizov has such a complete game, and he's so damn strong. Like, that dude is so strong on the puck, how he sees the ice. I thought that was a great goal, not from a standpoint of, well, yeah, he got the second, assist. So if you look at the box score age, it's like, okay, yeah, fine. Shocking. Kirill Kaprizov got a second assist. No, he made the goal himself.
I mean, that was just such pretty passing. And I feel like this is something, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you have the Ovechkin kitchen goal where he's his spot. And when he's there, if he gets it on the power play, he's going to put it in the back of the net. I feel like, and I know other players have done this, but maybe not to the consistency level, the volume level that Kirill Kaprizov does it, but this like spinning top pass where he just peripheral vision, he recognizes it over here, but then he goes a 362 because it should be like a backhand pass, but he doesn't have the angle, he doesn't have the lane or whatever. He's able to position his body and just like so effortlessly put something perfectly on you. In this one, Johansson's stick, it is such a skilled play that I think a very small percentage of NHL players could do, let alone do it as consistently as he does. Like, that is his patented thing, in my opinion. And I'm very open to people bringing other evidence to the floor of why that's maybe not solely to Kirill Kaprizov, because he didn't invent it, but he has, I think, in a sense, perfected it. He is so good at that play. Johansson, credit to him for being in the right spot, keeping up with the play and the pass. He wasn't the cleanest reception, but he was able to settle it down. And then, he puts it on a Rossi stick where anybody, I think, in the NHL playing on that line should finish the job. But he did. And that kicked off their scoring off what was a pretty slow start to the game. And the thing is, I tend to say, if you're down early, you're down 2, let's limit the cuteness factor and just stick to fundamental hockey and what the game plan is. That's exactly why you shouldn't for certain players. Kirill Kaprizov, if he wants to dazzle, he's able to, because he's able to create that opportunity, get your team on the board by a fantastic play, and all of a sudden that generates 17 seconds later. It took a little puck luck, but tie game all of a sudden, and it starts with that play that I think most people would say, why are we doing that down 2? Let's keep it simple. That's exactly why you should not.
And what's so impressive, though, is it starts with hard work. Like, he defensively picks off a pass. So it went from being a workmanlike, hey, that's just good, fundamental, get your stick in the passing lane, right? So, like, it starts with a grinder workmanlike play, and then it ends with this spectacular pass. And look, we've seen Kirill now for, 4 years? And he has, I think from day one, he's been fantastic. He's always been great. But I don't think it's recency bias or hyperbole to say his game is at another level this season. It just feels like, and I don't know if that's him maturing, Heinz's impact, because this certainly does feel like a way more tactical approach here. I don't know exactly what it is, and it might be a combination of everything that we're talking about, but I'm pretty confident in saying that Kirill Kaprizov's game has gone to, and I didn't even know if this was entirely possible, so that's the funniest thing. I feel like it's gone to another level, not really from goal scoring. He's got, I think 14. So the goal scoring is good, but I'm just saying from a completeness, and this is a guy who's always worked hard. Like, you never sent Kirill into a summer but trying to say, hey, you know what, Kirill, you got to work harder. Like, your defense is not up to par. His game's always been pretty complete, but to me, he has now separated it more and more and more, which gets back to what we've discussed previously, AJ, which is this guy is now worth those top contracts, because you're not going to find, I don't think, a more complete product right now when it comes to just doing everything well and doing it all, not just well, but at a superstar, because, some guys can score goals, right? Some guys can set up goals. You name me, what thing in the toolbox does this guy not have right now where he's outstanding, including his back checking?
And that's the thing. Like, I think we had mentioned on a previous episode, like, saying if he came in and just didn't really change any part of his game, we just saw the same thing, nobody would care, nobody would bat an eye. It'd be more Kirill Kaprizov party, let's go. But the thing is, he has upped over the offseason how much he's committed to the defensive aspect of the game. And whether that is a John Hines credit, because maybe he's having the team buy in a certain way more, or maybe he's just out on the ice more, which credit to, once again, John Hines for doubling up and saying, hey, I'm going to play this favorite. I'm going to ride this horse while we have him. And granted, tonight, now I'm curious to see how this maybe impacts tomorrow. I know we haven't gotten the official end game minutes for Kirill Kaprizov, but on a back-to-back, one of the few that we've seen the Wild have so far this year, I'm curious how much he played tonight and how much that could affect, if any, him tomorrow, because I know for the past week and a half or so, it's been we're monitoring whether or not he has a lower body injury after the hit by Drake Kajula in the Edmonton game. But he really just does it all, Judd. It's really incredible how good he is offensively, because you would expect there's got to be a flaw, but then it just seems like there isn't. And maybe the one thing is that sometimes he maybe believes in his teammates too much, to where he thinks, I can do this play, they should be able to do the same thing, or if I make this pass, they should be able to reciprocate that. But that's not the case. He is levels, and you're right, levels now above, I think, anybody else on the ice most nights. Obviously there's really good players in the NHL, but for instance, tonight, he is the best player no matter who is on the ice. Whenever he steps on there, he is the best player in this game this evening.
Absolutely. All right. In goal. So let's see here. I just want to make sure I got this right. Gustafsson had started the last 3 games, which was an OT loss to the Flames, a loss, the 4-1 loss, which included an empty net goal on Monday night to the Jets then, and then his outstanding performance in the 1-0 win at Buffalo on Wednesday. So the last time that we had seen Marc-Andre Fleury start a game in goal was the 21st of November. Comes back tonight, stops 20 of 22 shots. The first goal was more of a defensive breakdown that left Donato open in the slot, which started with Faber not being hard enough on the puck, and then Middleton came over to try to help him. Donato got alone in the slot. Foligno didn't. I think Foligno was going sort of in a no man's land to go help. The second goal was then Donato on a power play, which looked like a terrible goal at first until you watched the replay and saw that the puck actually shot fairly close in, hit Faber's skate, and then knuckled exactly away from where Marc-Andre Fleury was going. I feel pretty good right now about the goaltending situation from both ends. Like, Gustafsson has been without question great. It's unbelievable. But, there's some question about, okay, how much is Flower playing? It's his last season. He's about to turn 40 years old, if I'm not mistaken, or he just did. It's right around this time.
I think he just did.
Okay, so now he's 40. So there's a lot of things where you're like, okay, let's see how this works, especially with a guy who's not playing. And I feel like the Oilers game, for sure, and this game, he was very solid. And here's what I like, too. The structure of how this team is playing, I think, also complements, and we're seeing that continually for the most part. Like, there was a bad goal. The Faber one, I think, is just a fluke. But the breakdown on the Donato first goal was not great. But that being said, I also feel like what we are seeing is a team that plays a structure that's defensively responsible enough where, unlike a year ago, you don't feel like the goaltenders are necessarily being hung out to dry continually.
Yeah, and I think we saw that maybe a few times early in the season, just shaking off that offseason rust where there was major breakdowns at times in the first couple of games. But tonight, I think if you stood on a podium and you presented evidence, and I think there's a lot that you can say neither of the goals tonight were necessary. Like, all the bad goals, not necessarily on Marc-Andre Fleury's back. Like, he was not the sole reason why. You explained that first one perfectly. There's a breakdown. The forecheck by Bertuzzi takes the puck away from Faber. Both Foligno and Middleton kind of drift to that corner that leaves Donato out front all alone, right in the highest danger area possible. Yeah, I mean, Ryan Donato is not a world beater, but he's going to score that. As most NHL guys, it's a good opportunity. The other one, it's deflection off Faber's stick, where I think the shot from Donato was going to be just a hard slap shot on the ice. Should have been one of a routine kick save to the corner for Fleury, but it gets off the ice, throws him off. Would you like to maybe see him adjust there? Sure, but I don't expect him to, given it's a power play. You're already moving across your body. I don't think it's something where you can sit here and say, he had a really bad down to, at the end of the day, you're going to look at the future of this team. And I think you're right where you say the Wild, whether it's Gustafsson or Fleury and net, I feel confident, and I trust the coaching staff and John Hines to pick when Fleury does get his bouts. Tonight, I think it would be a waste given tomorrow's opponent in Nashville saying, okay, we're going to play Gustafsson this evening, and then tomorrow Fleury. No, they made the smart choice. And I know you could say the three leading games up to this, it was Gustafsson. But it's about picking your spots, and I think the Wild have done that really well. When it's a lesser than opponent, I'm comfortable going with Fleury, but Gustafsson has shown that he can be the workhorse so far this season, and he's been playing at that level to where if you go back-to-back games for him, I think he's going to perform just as well as the night before and the night before when he was maybe more fresh. So I'm feeling like the goaltending for this team is in about as good of a spot as it has been in the most recent years.
Yeah, and to your point about tomorrow night at the X, the Predators have been a mess this season too. So like they're a mess. Now I will say this though, I think it surprised some that in the back-to-back that the Wild played on the road trip when they played the Oilers and Flames, that they actually started Fleury against McDavid and Draisaitl and Edmonton. And I just think that the team as a whole did a nice job. Now we do have the official stats in before we go here. Kirill Kaprizov tonight, time on ice, 25 minutes and 36 seconds. Let's give that some context. It is the most time on ice of anyone in this game from the Wild perspective, including the defenseman. So Brock, who plays a ton, right? Faber plays an absolute ton. Played 23:47. Middleton played 23:53. Kirill Kaprizov, 25:36. Over or under on that tomorrow?
I feel like it's got to be under that. Like, that's insane numbers. And that's just like throwing a lion against what should be a pretty easy prey in the Blackhawks. But being down early, I expect them to probably start the game a little bit better than they did tomorrow. It's not a back-to-back where you're on the road. You're at home. It's not a night game. So, I mean, as we record this, it's about 4:00 in the afternoon. So it's not like you are going to get home at 11 o'clock after everything wraps up and all of a sudden it's the recoup. They're going to have an evening to recover. It's probably less, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's at least 23:30 into the 24. And the number being 25:36, over a minute more than anybody else in the game. And the next closest was Jake Middleton with 23:53. That is insane. I mean, the guy is just a motor. He is a workhorse. It's like, I know what's the lingo is the Russian gas. Like, they just keep burning and they keep burning. This guy's got it in an infinite amount. I love John Hines playing him as much as needed. He's going to speak up if he can't. Right now, just play him. I mean, we see double shifts maybe when you don't even need to, but that's just fine. He is the best player. You have to play him. It's so much fun to watch him, Judd.
Last thing for you now, officially last thing. Faceoffs, because I just took a peek at the faceoff statistics from this game against the Blackhawks. The Wild, 27-15 in the circle. A monster game from Jules Eriksson Ek, who had 2 assists, was a +2, had 3 shots on goal, and get this, AJ, in the circle, 15 faceoff wins, 4 losses. Also, Boldy 3-0, which we've talked about this because he is not a center. He has played there this season sporadically at times, but he definitely gets thrown into the circle if someone gets ejected from it. But 15-4, what a monster night! And Connor Bedard, let's see, went 2-6. So the Blackhawks' young star, who struggles, I think, as a rule on faceoffs, but Jules Eriksson Ek, man, that is a Mikko Koivu in his prime. I think they should put the 14 up in the rafters right now here at the X when you have a faceoff night like that.
I mean, to put it into perspective, I would say that a 15-4 night in the faceoff dot is equivalent to like hitting 2 triples in a game for baseball. Maybe that's like a 2 touchdown game or something like that. That is, 5 3-pointers in an NBA game. Like, that is an insane number. Like, in the Wild, they blew the Blackhawks out of the water in the faceoff dot, 27-15. They went 64% of the draws. And this should have been a 2-goal game, but if you win that many faceoffs in a game, you're putting yourself in such a good position to win. Starting with the puck, starting with possession that many times after a whistle, Judd, that is game changing. And I know a lot of people overlook it because there is times where they right at the end of the game, we saw the Wild win the faceoff and they try to take a shot at the end of the net. It ends up being icing. So you do give possession away in a sense some of those times, but to have possession right away, I mean, what a monster night. Like, that is an incredible performance.
In other words, face-offs matter, folks. Yes,
They
matter. Quit minimizing the face-off. It's important. All right, that's it. Appreciate you all tuning in for the day after Thanksgiving Judd's Hockey Show. Wild beats the Blackhawks in action again against the Preds. It's been a fun year. It's a fun team. My God, it's a team that I don't think I've seen for a long time here, because this is a competitive team that shows up on a nightly basis. Boy, very exciting stuff. All right, he's AJ. I'm Judd. We'll see you soon on Judd's Hockey Show.